Today we're talking about the iPhones. That's right, I got the 13 mini, love this size, and the 13 Pro. And we're going to talk about the 5 main differences. And then also at the very end, I'm going to talk about which one I am going to stick with for possibly the rest of this year. It was a very tough decision, and there's a good chance you may be surprised to see which one I pick. That all being said, let's get started. So the biggest difference, one of the ones you're gonna notice all the time, is the size. I mean, there is a big difference in size. You got the 5.4 inch with the mini to the 6.1 inch with the Pro. With all that, you also have just the heaviness of the Pro. I mean, the Pro feels like it weighs a ton compared to the mini. And I think it's also just, since it's bigger, it's harder to hold. You got all that going for you as well. So that is a big difference. Some people like the smaller phones. Some people like the larger phones. And it's all preference on what you want. Obviously, if you want to go caseless, this is the best phone to get because it's so easy to hold. You're not probably going to drop it, at least not because of the size of it for sure. Next up, along with the size, it's that screen. So we have the 120 Hertz ProMotion display. This thing, you won't really notice that ProMotion. You won't really notice that 120 Hertz unless you have something comparing it to. And then if you do buy the Pro and you use it long enough, then you're just gonna not notice it either. So I've had the iPad Pro for many, many years now, and it has that ProMotion display. It's got the 120 Hertz. And when I close apps and all that stuff, that's when you notice it on here. But I've gotten so used to it on my Pro, my iPad Pro, that I don't even notice it anymore. And same thing, when I use this for a week without using this one, you just don't notice it anymore. And it's nice, let me say that. If you're a big gamer, that's probably where you're gonna notice it the most. But for the most part, the part where I really notice it is just how smooth it is to close an app. So that's one thing that you do get with ProMotion. Your apps will close butterly smooth. Other than that, you do get 1,000 nits of brightness with the 13 Pro. And when you're out in the sun, you can really tell that compared to the 13 mini or even the 12. Like, I believe that one was only 625 nits on the 12 mini. This one I believe is 800 now. And both of these can get 1200 nits with HDR content, which is great. But man, like that 1,000 nits of brightness comes in handy like crazy when you're outside in the sun, with being able to tell and actually read the screen a lot easier without struggling with the sun in your face or on your screen. Next on the list, battery life. So according to Apple's reports, this can get 22 hours of playback time. This one gets 17 hours of playback time. Doesn't sound like, that's what, 5 hours of difference. Doesn't sound like too crazy, but if you think about it, in a 24-hour day, you get 5 extra hours of usage. That's a lot. Like, I love the mini. I do. The battery is not the best. And if you watch my previous video, this battery seems to degrade faster. So that's another thing that you might have to deal with this. But overall, like, I love this size, but man, like, I will have to, like, lately, because, when you get new hardware, you use it way more than after a while. And I have noticed that I've had to charge this throughout the day, where this one, it holds up, man. This thing, I still have battery life at the end of the day, where this one, if I want to make it through the day, I'm probably going to charge it. Now, with my job, I'm always on a computer. It's not a problem. Like, a lot of the times I will have my phone connected to my computer anyway because of developing purposes. So for me, it's not a problem, but for other people, if you're away from your computer or from power, that battery life is really nice. Another kind of smaller thing to note is that this does come with a 5-core GPU, where this one only has 4. So if you are a big gamer, this one's gonna do a little bit better than this one. It's something, I guess. So now on to probably the biggest feature for most people, the cameras. So Apple talks about how this has a 6x optical range, where this one only has 2. So I'm not really sure, like, because they go all the way down to that 0.5 you know, your ultra wide angle, and then all the way to that 3x zoom. And then also you get that macro with this one. So the Mini now does have the cameras that were in the Pro Max of last year's model, which is just astonishing that they were able to put these. I mean, look at these things. Those things are massive. It's insane that they got such amazing cameras in this small phone. I will give Apple props to that because this thing can take some amazing photos. But of course, they couldn't keep the Pro having the same, so they did increase the aperture of all the cameras, and then you get that 3x now optical zoom, which is really nice. Also with the Pro is you will be getting that ProRes when that comes out. It seems to be in the current beta, so I'm expecting it very soon. And you get the Pro Raw photos, which if you're a pro photographer, that's a nice little add-on just to have more control over your photos. The Pro also has that little LiDAR, which helps with night shot modes, which this can't do as well because it doesn't have that LiDAR. That LiDAR can see in the dark, where this one cannot. The aperture is also different on the two, if that means anything to you. I believe the wide is a 1.5 versus a 1.6. and the ultra wide is a 1.8 versus a 2.4. That really helps with like getting the background kind of more blurry even without the cinematic mode for videos and the portrait mode, and it just lets more light in to just let the pictures look better in all different kind of conditions. But back onto the cinematic mode, that works the same on both, which is really nice. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of a difference on the Pro since it does have a little bit better camera, but as far as right now, it works only in 1080p, 30 frames a second, and that's all you get on either of these. Should you upgrade? Well, if you have the 12 model, probably not, unless you're wanting to jump from a Pro to a Mini or a Mini to a Pro. You're better off just keeping, because the upgrades aren't that much. The screen brightness is probably going to be the biggest thing you might notice day to day, and that's pretty much the biggest upgrade reason, is just to be able to read your phone easier when there's a lot of light around. But what am I going to do? So I have gone back and forth like no other with which phone am I gonna keep. I've honestly even had to contact Apple a couple times to switch which one I'm sending back. So it's very tough, but I am going with the Pro.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Oh, I know. I am a huge fan of the mini iPhone. I still think it is one of the best iPhones Apple has ever made. I honestly like it more than the Pro, but here's the difference. My kids are in sports. That Pro, that 3x zoom on the Pro is amazing to have. See, last year with COVID, sports were canceled. So not having a zoom lens was just not a big deal at all last year. But now they're back in sports. My youngest is playing soccer. They're both going to be playing basketball here in the next month. And having that zoom really helps because I don't want to carry another camera around. My wife has a camera, but as far as video and stuff, I want to be able to use my iPhone because that's where I can actually watch the videos again really easy. And that 3x zoom and that battery life is super nice to have in those use cases. But honestly, I've been carrying this around for a week now and it's so big, it's so heavy. This thing is so nice to hold. I know I'm gonna regret this decision once sports are over, but that's the other good thing with the Pro is if I do ever change my mind, I can sell this or somebody would gladly trade this for one of these. So I have that to go fall back on. So that's why I'm going with the Pro for at least now. It was a very, very tough decision. I even bought one of those little add-on lenses and tried that out, and it just did not work well. Trying to get it to focus, I think it's because it was built for the smaller phones, and these lenses are so huge now that it just was just not good at all. Which one are you gonna pick? Are you gonna pick one? Are you keeping your 12, your 11, your 10, whatever you have? Are you just gonna keep that for now and wait for the 14? there's no reason not to. I mean, it's all up to you guys on what your needs are. For me, sticking with the Pro for now. May switch back to this one before too long because I love this phone. And it's finally red, which is, oh, it looks so good. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless.